Okay, so you're putting your book on the market, but what should the size be? If you choose the wrong size, this is going to cost you a lot. We're going to go into that in today's video. This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com, where self-publishing doesn't have to be so hard. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at KDP publishing sizes, how to select the right one, which isn't completely obvious for most authors. So going into the introduction, we're going to give you an explanation of KDP, that's Kindle Direct Publishing, and its importance for authors. One of the main reasons it's important is that it gives you the freedom to make all sorts of selections and choices, both regarding what your book looks and feels like, also in terms of where exactly it's marketed, its pricing, all of these other things. It gives you that author's independence that you need when you're getting into self-publishing. You want that flexibility and giving you the global reach and royalties that are associated with it. So that's the first element of this. It's where the book is exactly going. Now, the purpose of this guide is that I'm going to be going through and covering exactly the parts of KDP publishing and regarding specifically the size that we're going to be hitting in order so that you're not going to make any of the mistakes. Now, getting straight into it, understanding KDP publishing sizes. The first thing we're going to look at is the definition of publishing sizes in the context of KDP. Now, there are all sorts of sizes that you can use, both for your paperback and your hardcover book. Now, the question then we'd have is, well, what is that trim size that's going to be the magical one? And I hear people from time to time commenting on different sizes. Well, should I do this size or I should do that size? And also looking at other platforms like Ingram Spark or Lulu, which give you even more flexibility. Okay, so, and a lot of this deals with, like with the paperback or the hardcover version, it's also going to come into the idea of the page count, which gives you a critical factor that impacts the production cost and a lot of these other things. So when you're choosing the trim size, that is going to play a little bit of a role, not particularly with this size of book, but with certain sizes, especially with Ingram Spark, you can see exactly where if it's not this length, it has to be at least this length in order to do this particular size or this format for your book. So the importance of selecting the right size for your book, there's a couple things. One is the reader's experience. How does the book look and feel? The other is the production cost associated, and then marketability and distribution. Not all sizes are able to be distributed globally. Some people come to me, some of my clients will say, hey, I want to use a square book of this micro size. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they're like, well, where can I do it? I'm like, you can do it on Lulu, but then it's not going to be available on Amazon. And that is going to create a huge problem for you, okay? The other thing is the available on KDP publishing sizes and their compatibility with different formats. So based upon the multiple sizes that KDP offers, it gives you this thing. So for paperbacks, sizes such as 6x9 or 5.5 by 8.5 or 8.5 by 11 for paperbacks and reflowables and fixed layers or for ebooks. So there's lots of different sizes. Now with ebooks, you have to keep in mind, we're not so worried on that because it's going to be automatic, but we do need the format compatibility so that you would choose a size that is compatible for the format that you're going to be publishing in, and then also the content consideration. So we're going to make it in alignment with the type of content that we are including in our book. Okay, so let's go into standard KDP paperback sizes. So common trim sizes for KDP paperback books include the 6.9 inch, right, which is called trade. And this one here gives you, it's the most popular, and it gives you maximum distribution. Amazon itself recognizes that across all of the different platforms. Then we have the 5.5 by 8.5. Sometimes people will have like a pocket, maybe something we'd find at an airport or something like that. That's usually with a lot of paperback books what we consider normal, just a normal size, but it has less distribution. And then 8.5 by 11 for its larger standard trim size. So it's commonly used for academic textbooks, workbooks, art books, a lot of these other ones. So you have to keep in mind that different ones that we're holding it. Often when people are thinking a little nonfiction pocket book they're getting at the airport, that'd be 5.5 by 8.5. However, that limits the distribution that we're going to have when we're going for this exact size. Okay, so choosing the optimal size for different book genres and purposes. This plays another huge role, which is looking exactly what genre are we putting this thing. Is it a children's book or is it something else? And so it definitely can play a role based upon the audience and the purpose of the book, as well as just the aesthetic feel. So for example, if we're looking at doing some really full colored book, maybe some sort of images and photos, maybe a pocket-sized book, just a little teeny one, isn't going to be a great way to do that. We may want something a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's going to be a big one there. KDP hardcover sizes. Now, available dimensions for KDP hardcover, that is the 6x9, and again, 8.5 by 11 and 7 by 10. So you have a number of options, but you'll notice some of the options are not the same as your paperback. And this starts to pull in one of the main strategies we have here, which is that we sometimes are not looking to actually have different sizes between them, because if you do, your content, the book itself, the size of the book itself, you'll have to use a different cover based upon the content that you have. In other words, you'll have to change the content size itself. So you have to produce it in a different size, and that creates additional complexities when doing the book, as opposed to creating a single PDF file for the interior for your paperback and hardcover and being able to use it for both. Okay? Now, comparing popular hardcover sizes and their advantages. And again, 6x9, it gives some standard hardcore. It's a versatile and reader-friendly choice. This also gives it across, both for novels and nonfiction in various genres. I personally like the hardcover in 6x9. But then as we get smaller to 8.5, well, actually, they'll just go straight to the 8.5 by 11. But see, now we start to deviate a little bit. And now if you're doing just a normal pocket, this isn't so good. And then 7 by 10 is sort of in the middle ground. But again, we're getting mismatches between our paperback format sizes for our paperbacks versus our hardcover books. And so that's another thing to consider if you decide to choose a different size between your paperback versus your hardcover versions. Okay? Now, factors to consider when deciding on the right hardcover size. A lot of it will be that content and genre. That's one thing. The aesthetic, practicability, and cost and distribution. Again, I'm focusing on just distribution and also the ability to use the exact same material file for your paperback and hardcover. And you heard me right. If you take that same file and you have to fix it, we fix it one time, produce that paperback version, and then we can, the PDF we use, which is, let's say, 6x9, and then we can use it in both versions and give us that maximum distribution. So that's another thing to consider. Now, ebook format for KDP publishing. The beautiful thing with the reflowable format that we have with the ebooks is that we don't really have to spend too much time looking at this. So understanding the concept of reflowable books. The key with reflowables is that these are digitally designed to adapt to different screen sizes and devices. So we're not exactly sitting there and talking about, well, what size is it going to be? It's going to auto adjust based upon the screen size you have. Then you have the optimal formatting for various e-readers and devices. This is one of the reasons why I definitely would suggest using Juto like I have below, or Atticus, which I've also been testing out in terms of checking this out, because it deals with device-specific styling, responsible layouts, and compatibility testing. You can find my link for Juto below, my affiliate link in the below in the comments. Okay, so that can be helpful below in the description. Okay, so that you can see exactly some of the tools that will make sure it has this reflowing thing correct. Okay, now we want to ensure compatibility with different screen sizes, and that's another one, whether it's fluid layouts, scalable images, or cross-browser compatibility, making sure that it's going to work with regardless of what types of screens you're using. It should fit across all of them, and that's both Juto and Atticus will make sure that that isn't going to be a problem. Now, children's book sizes. Now, this is something very important to consider because it isn't the same as some of these others. You have special considerations for children's books, illustrations, and layout. Again, if you're only going for a small one, we want to have engaging visuals, so we're going to need not this little tiny book, but something that's easy for children to open and do it. Also, at age-adjusted typography, it's going to be bigger text, so of course maybe this micro page, micro print isn't going to be right. And interactive elements that gives them the ability to perhaps interact with pop-ups and touch-activated things. This is dealing with the ebook version, but then it's not as important there. Okay, now recommended trim sizes for children's books. And this is one a lot of people would go for the bigger sizes, such 8.5 by 11 or 10 by 10, 8 by 8, going for something that would give you those square ones. But then there's a size limitation, and so for many of my clients who are putting out the children's books, they're going to have a shorter one. So maybe you're only going to be able to put this thing on IngramSpark or Lulu if it's going to be under that 85-page limit in order to have as a paperback, or actually as a hardcover book, as a paperback 24 pages long. But you're ideally going to want to have it in both. So that's the reason why we're definitely going to want to see, is it possible to do it in 6x9 and for this thing to look okay, or what size can we do it in both the paperback and the hardcover that would give us something that's easy for kids to use. And when in doubt, look to see what other authors are doing for the children's books, and that will usually put you on the right thing. Then, adjusting ebook formats for interactive elements with children. This may involve multimedia integration or responsive design, user-friendly navigation, something where the kids can click on the thing. It's almost like an app. And so this involves a lot more complex. But in terms of just a basic one, you don't need super complicated children's books, you can simply use Atticus or Juto. It would be Juto is a little bit more straightforward with this for the children's books, but these are options, though many authors find it helpful to use other tools, more advanced tools specifically designed for this purpose. Okay, now choosing the right size for your book. So you're going to be evaluating the genre and the content of your book. Look at what other in your genre, what are they doing it as, and looking at the content relevance based upon what it has and differentiation. How is your book going to stand out in a genre or fit into it so they won't be complaining in the reviews for your book about how exactly it looks and feels. Okay. We're also going to be considering the reader preferences and market trends. What are the demographics? What do they expect to see? And doing some market research to see exactly what the market itself is expecting. Your beta readers can also be helpful, saying, what do you think of this size of book versus another size, okay? Also, how to experiment and test different sizes for your target audience. Maybe doing some mock-up testing and asking kids of that age to see exactly what they would have to say, or anyone who's looking at this, how does this look, or limited release, maybe just publishing a small run of these books, or doing reader surveys. This is one of the reasons why I definitely recommend having an email list and attempting to put it out to the email list and asking them, what do you think about the sizes? Now, formatting your book for KDP publishing. The first thing is setting up the correct page dimensions in your manuscript, because your manuscript has to match the cover of this thing, okay? Now, the standard page sizes, you're going to look at the size, the number of pages, and that's going to determine what the cover is going to be for the book. There's going to have a template for it that's going to match exactly these dimensions that you're using, okay? Getting the margins and bleed set up and using the document software settings to make sure this thing is exactly right, okay? Then we have adjusting the margins and gutters for print books, making sure that that's going to be flawless. I definitely would recommend checking out, again, Juto and Atticus. Both of them have the ability to do this. I do have a course on Juto below in the description. You can find a little more information on that when you're going into it. Then you have creating a visually appealing ebook layout, making sure the typography is looking good, you have the proper formatting, and high quality images. It's the images that I find that a lot of authors really mess up when doing the ebook ones, okay? Now, preparing book covers for different sizes, you're going to be designing a cover that fits the selected trim size. Now on Amazon, you're going to see that they have this thing, which is a template that you put it in there, and it'll automatically show you exactly based upon the number of pages you have and the trim size. They'll create that template for the cover that exactly matches it, making sure the bleed and trim is exactly right, the proportion imagery, and the test prints. Everything's looking good. You can test this thing out. Now, the requirements for cover resolution, aspect ratio, this is incredibly important to make sure that your cover fits within it. Now, it's going to say it. You're going to need a minimum resolution of 300 dpi dots per inch in order to maintain that clarity and the quality and getting that proper aspect ratio, so we're not stretching and bending your cover, your main picture that you're using. And you can use the same cover that you used for your Amazon Kindle book, okay? And review publisher guidelines just to make sure that Amazon is in alignment with whatever you're doing, right? You can also, using professional design tools or a KDP cover creator for easy sizing. Now, I often recommend either learning the skill yourself, which I teach in my group coaching or one-on-one program, okay? I can show you exactly how to do that. You can find the details below in the description, or hire somebody on Fiverr to do this. So getting professional design tools in order to figure out yourself, like Adobe InDesign and some other tools like Photoshop and such, or KDP Cover Creator, you can attempt to do that if you'd like to go for something simpler, or selecting the right tools that might perfectly match what you're trying to accomplish in KDP. Now, uploading your book with the right size. So as you're going through the step-by-step guide to uploading your formatted manuscript, the first thing you need to do is you're going to go and say, add a new book to your thing. You're creating an account, you're uploading the manuscript, and it's going to say, what size is this book? It's because it's going to want to know exactly to make sure that your cover matches it, to reviewing that and then publishing the book. You're going to be ensuring accurate metadata for different book sizes, like making sure that you're going to use different ISBN. You can get them also below in the description or send me a note. And I can tell you exactly how to get those ISBNs, and making sure that the descriptions exactly match it, so they're going to know what to expect, and then updating the distribution channels to match. Remember, if you're going, again, I mentioned before, 6x9, it's going to give you that flexibility to make sure that this book's going to be on as many platforms as possible. Now, previewing your book to check the formatting accuracy. Once you upload it all, you're going to be able to go into the PDF preview and take a look at what is this book going to look like in the printed. You can also get a printed proof copy of the book to see if it's up to your expectations, okay? Now, the impact of KDP publishing sizes on sales and distribution. So we're going to look at how book size affects printing cost and royalty, because it definitely does. You're going to always One of the things, if you're choosing larger books with lots of photography and stuff, it's going to increase the cost. Also, if you're going for color, it's going to increase the cost. So usually we're going to want to hold the prices as low as possible so that we can get higher royalties off the book, assuming it's not crazy important for your audience to get a specific type of book that goes at the higher printing cost, okay? Now, considerations for expanded distribution and retail availability. One thing you're going to want to do on that expanded distribution is make sure if you're choosing it for the paperback version only, then on Ingram Spark, you need to make sure it's not selected if you're going to put the book on Ingram Spark. Otherwise, they interfere with each other. So that's an important point. So do not select that expanded distribution for the paperback. But if you choose 6x9, you're getting your max distribution. So that's the first one to remember. Format compatibility, which is not all sites will accept it. And for marketing and promotion, choosing a standard size makes this a lot easier. So choose a size for your book that's not going to be a problem, a trim size, okay? Now, reader feedback and reviews related to the book size preferences. After we get that information from our readers to figure out, is this the size, doing reader surveys, analyzing reviews, and the author-reader interaction, all of these things give us that information we're going to need, okay? Now, adjusting book sizes for international markets. We can be converting book sizes for different regional markets. This is a possibility, but I do not recommend doing this. It's better to be standardized across the board unless certain regions are forbidding a certain size. That's why I like 6x9, because there's no problem at all. You also have cultural considerations for international readers, like people who read from right to left and such. However, it's still recommended to always go for the 6x9 because it's not going to offend anybody's cultural sensitivity or language and localizations or cover and visuals. So none of these things are going to be a problem in these regions. So I would always recommend continuing that 6x9 size that we're going for. And then optimizing the metadata and description for global reach. We want to make sure multilingual metadata that we have it in there if we're going for different sites, different languages. Though initially I would suggest doing it in English and then using regional keywords. But then again, it's putting that different version out. What are they searching for that would lead them to this book? If you're not choosing English or perhaps Spanish, then, and cultural relevance, is there something in this book where the size would actually matter when we're going in there? Then you have special editions and collectibles. You're going to be exploring limited editions and large format books options. There's different versions we'd have of the book, and that may impact the sizes, though I still would actually recommend the 6x9, and creating collector editions for niche audiences. Sometimes they like it not to be the same size as the others, and so it could be a good reason to actually explore something bigger, something more interesting, maybe colorful, changing a square-shaped one, something that mixes it up a little bit, right? Then you have balancing cost and demand for special editions. And this one is a huge one, the cost analysis. The cost goes up for you in terms of making any changes to your book. So I would highly recommend not doing that, okay? Then you have your pricing strategy, like, well, and this is something I discuss with my clients all the time. You can check out more below in the group description or just do a free discovery session with me. We'll discuss it. What the pricing strategy would be, and then limited production. So we're going to keep production quantities of special editions limited, possibly to match the anticipated demand, if we're not going to do print on demand, because then it would make it even more special. So in conclusion, you can see we've discussed an awful lot of things about the size of your book and the importance of getting it into that 6x9 format, unless it's a children's book, in which case we may need to go to Ingram Spark or Lulu or one of the other sites, but there's a lot of things to consider, okay? Now, in closing, I want to let you know I have a free discovery session that you can check out below in the description for the video here, where we can sit down for 25 minutes. You can ask any question you want. I'm going to go over some of the programs I have, but we can take a look and give you some advice on your specific self-publishing problems, and we can take a close look there. So thanks a lot for that, and I'll see you next time.